Hey friend, welcome back to the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast. I'm Micah McCurry, your host. Here we are on the penultimate episode. We only have today and tomorrow to conclude this series in the book of Psalms. I pray it's a blessing to you, that it has been a blessing to you. I'm going to ask you to grab your Bibles. Go to Psalm 1. I'd like to read this passage for you. Psalm 1. We're going to ask this question: have I taken a step back spiritually speaking? Look at Psalm 1 and verse 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Today on the broadcast, in just a moment, you're going to hear from a message I preached at my home church not that long ago, and I pray it's a blessing to you. I did a short 3-part series on this particular psalm, and we're going to dive into this question: have you taken a step back? Listen now. Let's sharpen our minds, let's open our ears, and soften our hearts. How rooted are we? Would the Bible consider us ungodly, or would we be a righteous, blessed man? The ungodly are not so. The ungodly miss refreshment. See, we're looking at everything in almost a negative context, but that's what that's the viewpoint that the ungodly have. Everything that verse 3 talks about, the ungodly are not so. Verse 3 again. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. No word, no water, no strength. Jeremiah 2:13 says, they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. We were there in Arizona and New Mexico, and we were talking to Jimmy. I feel like I'm going to be referencing Jimmy a lot and going forward. There was a lot to Jimmy, but he was talking about how scarce water is. And you folks were there, Austin, and you were there, and you understand how it's so dry. One of the guys said they blew their nose an hour after getting there, and they had a bloody nose because it was so dry, just sapped everything out of them so quickly. But then you go to a place like Water Flow, New Mexico. I wonder why there's a bustling town right there by the river. Because the water is important there in the desert. But how foolish would we be to cut off our access to the wonderful water of life and miss refreshment by being one of the ungodly? The ungodly have no roots. They miss refreshment. They forfeit rest. Verse 4, the ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Do you know those type of people that they belong to like the opinion of the month club? Opinion of the week club? They saw something, they read something on Facebook, and it's completely changed the paradigm of everything they've ever thought up to this point. And you're thinking, yeah, I just changed my mind yesterday because of something. I hope that's not you. Abraham Lincoln said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. I remember him saying that. But in all sincerity, it's a restless thing when you're double, triple, quadruple minded all the time. And you're pushed this way, and you're pushed this way. And the last person you talk to has the most influence over you. Now that might be okay if it's someone like a youth pastor, a pastor, someone that cares for you, but you know as well as I, the ungodly, they go back to verse 1, and they walk in the way of sinners. They sit in the seat of the scornful. The ungodly forfeit rest. Without the right diet, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but to some degree, you are what you eat. Think about, remember flamingos, those weird looking birds stand on their leg, stand up on the spindly legs. You know where they get their pink color from? They get it from their diet. From what I understand, I think it's some kind of shrimp or prawn or something like that they eat. Addie's nodding, so I've got a biology expert. She knows. I have seen some flamingos. I was at a zoo and I saw some flamingos. I thought, those aren't flamingos. They're gray. And one of the zookeepers explained, well, it costs a lot of money to buy that particular kind of shrimp. We don't feed them the shrimp, so they're still flamingos. But I'll tell you what, I've never seen the Discovery Channel go a flock of mass number and show you gray flamingos. Nobody wants to see gray flamingos. But you know where they get their color from? The vibrant pink color? They get it from their diet, what they eat. We can come to church and we can put on the outward, but come Monday morning when the stressors of life and work, our true colors show. I'm not talking about wolves in sheep's clothing. I'm talking about a lot of flamingos, or should I say Christians, that have figured out how to put the pink suit on, but when no one's looking, we shuck it real quick because we got to go blend in with the rest of the gray, drab, dreary world because we just want to float with the breeze like the chaff does. But you know as well as I, that's a restless way to live. The ungodly lack replication. Chaff, I said already, has no seed. It cannot produce. It cannot grow. It cannot multiply. Has no fruit. Has no legacy. John 15:6, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and men gather them and cast them into the fire. Luke 7:13, somewhere around there, preached on maybe a couple months ago on the keeper of the vineyard. And the master came and said, cut down this fig tree. Why? He was bearing no fruit. Was it beautiful? Maybe. But the fig tree wasn't in the orchard, wasn't in the vineyard to be beautiful. It wasn't there for aesthetics. I feel like for myself, I look at myself in the mirror sometimes, I think, Sunday best, Easter best, but is it all aesthetics? Is it form or is it function? Do we look the part? I enjoy reading about cars and things like that, and I was reading an article. I saw maybe I feel a kinship with I think it was Land Cruisers because I wrecked one in Papua New Guinea. But I saw an article about Land Cruiser caught my attention, and so I click on it. I believe it was Land Cruisers. And there are a bunch of Land Cruiser, if I can say it this way, not to be denigrating, but fanboys. A lot of people that really enjoy these Land Cruisers, or maybe it's Land Rover, but they were very irritated because they put out a brand new one with like a dinky little 4-cylinder engine in it. And people buy those cars, they buy them for the badge, they buy them for the aesthetics, but they buy them for what they can do. Now, it's amusing the amount of people that are never going to drive them off of concrete. They were very irritated by the fact that this thing only has 227 horsepower in it. You go back 40 years, you had no cars that had 220 horsepower in them. But you know what their problem was? They're irritated because for them it was a step back in the functionality of this vehicle. Why would we think God is all right with us taking a step back and being like chaff just to be blown around? The ungodly are not so. They lack replication. Look at verse number 5 with me. The ungodly, therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. The ungodly face rejection. No stand, no defense, no ground to stand on, not in the congregation. They're excluded from the family. Matthew 7:23, depart from me, I never knew you. Are you like the blessed man or the barren chaff? The ungodly They miss refreshment. They have no roots. They forfeit rest. They lack replication. They face rejection. What a sad thing it would be. So many of the young men that, even at football camp, many of them from good homes, but the short time period that I got to coach, maybe it was 5 or 6 years, something like that, there were a decent number of young men that all they wanted, and Pastor, you said this so many times, all they wanted was a man to validate them. All they wanted was a little bit of approval from someone they looked up to. And there are so many, and Isaac, we met some people like that even in recent days. People you can tell they have to speak in a certain way because they want you to approve of them. They want you to love me, love me. Now, can I tell you, the love of your peers, the applause, it's real empty. It's real vain, vanity of vanities. I think if they applauded like we do today, Solomon probably would have included it in some of his writing under the auspices of the Holy Spirit. It's all vain. All the attaboys, all of that. But I'll tell you what, when he says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant," that has some staying power. But the opposite of that is him saying, nope, rejected. You know, I've taken a step back in my Christian life many a time. I'm not proud to say that. Those aren't the highlights of my Christian experience when I've done less than I should have done, but we've all been there. The question is, are we going to turn that ship around? Sometimes it feels like it's going to take forever to dig ourselves out of the hole we've made. Friend, I can't tell you how long-suffering God is, but he giveth more grace. Where sin did abound, grace did much more abound. I'm so thankful for the fact that God commended his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, God knew what he was getting when he saved us. What a blessed thing it would be if we would serve him, go beyond what humanly we should be able to do through his power, with his help, and be like that man in verse 2 and 3. His delight is in the law of the Lord. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Bible Tract Echoes. I'm Michael McCurry, your host. Tomorrow on the broadcast, we are going to conclude this series in Psalms 1. I pray it's been a blessing. I pray it will continue to be a blessing. I'm going to ask this question tomorrow on the broadcast. Are you known by God? Thanks for listening. God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to Bible Tract Echoes, the radio ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. Want to see our gospel tracts and other resources? Visit us online at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. Or follow us on social media to learn how you can partner with this ministry. Thanks again for listening. May the Lord richly bless you as you live for Him.